I think it's a reasonable response if there's no place you can qualify to rent to get some cash together and get a beater to live in. I think that was a reasonable response those folks made.
Why are you running for city council, and what are your goals if elected? Candace.
The real crisis in Olympia is lack of leadership. Nobody's willing to stand up and say enough. Enough to people living in encampments. Enough to open drug use and dealing. Enough to decriminalizing crime. Enough to political violence. The current city council has lost control of the city. They cannot even provide basic public safety anymore. They are unable to look at our problems realistically. I bring intellectual honesty and courage to the day. I spent the past 4 years reporting and writing on homeless response in Olympia. My work can be found on medium.com. Do a Google search, Candace Mercer, Medium. You'll find my articles. I have always approached this issue with an open mind. I've tried to answer the question, why is this happening? Lack of affordable housing due to 40 years of anti-growth policies is part of the equation, but it's not the entire answer. Our council likes to say we're all 10 seconds or 2 paychecks away from living in the camps. This is a lie. They know it's a lie. A gentleman who is advising me, a former meth dealer who lived in the jungle, put it this way: you party, I party till I'm homeless. This refusal to see reality is killing people, and it's destroying our city. And that's why I'm running. I love this city. This city has been so good to me, and it breaks my heart to see it in this state. It breaks my heart that progressives call the camps a cost-effective solution to homelessness, and they actually advocate in favor of the camps as a model for the future. Unlike the council, I ask the hard questions, and I am relentless in finding the answers. I have a lot to say on this topic. I toured the camps this week and reported from 7 different locations where I discussed my analysis of the situation, including the role of crime in the ecosystem. I have a YouTube channel. You can Google Candace Mercer YouTube. I will be posting the videos. They should all be up by the weekend. And I've made some other videos that are my pitches to Olympia voters. I am asking you to vote for courage on November 2nd. Thank you.
And Clark.
Thank you, Brian. My name's Clark Gilman, and I'm running to retain my seat on Olympia City Council. I came to Olympia at 18 years old, a kid who grew up in Burien, and I only did 1 year of Evergreen at that time. It took me 10 more years of working as a carpenter, doing a bit to get the degree, but I fell in love with the West Side neighborhood, and that's where we've lived our life and raised our kids, and where we still live. My experience for the last 10 years, I've been involved in the city of Olympia, first as a member of the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Committee, then chair of that committee, and then as a city council person. So I bring that experience, and I also bring a perspective that's a little bit unique in the crowd of city government folks, and that is a working class person who is not a policy professional and doesn't have any advanced degrees or anything like that. So I think that's valuable. In terms of goals, I feel strongly that we need to stay the course on our one community plan for homelessness response. We need to stay the course on our racial justice and equity work. We need to accelerate our climate response. And while we're doing all these multiple crises, we need to save room for continuing to enhance the parks, old arts and culture efforts that we have going, for fixing potholes, making sure the water's good, all that essential business of the city. So I'm Clark Gilman. I'm really proud to be part of this forum today. And I just want to recognize Spence saying that he's feeling poorly today, but he showed up. That's what I see universally across the people involved in all of the regional local governments, is just decent, normal people showing up and doing what they can. And I appreciate that, being here today while you feel poorly. Thank you.
Question number 2. Homelessness is a central concern and crisis in our community. A recent plan related to homelessness involves a proposed site for people living in cars and RVs that would relocate vehicles parked on Ensign Road to Martin Way and Carpenter Road. Would you please comment on this proposal and how would you relate it to a wider plan for homelessness that you would endorse? Clark.
Ensign Road has been really challenging and tough, both for the residents living in vehicles and campers along the road, for emergency services folks coming and going, and really for all of us to witness up close the poverty and the unmet needs. Many of the people I've met at Ensign Road are recently unhoused. And I've also found them to be with a pretty positive outlook on things. I think it's a reasonable response if there's no place you can qualify to rent to get some cash together and get a beater to live in. I think that was a reasonable response those folks made, and we have no other place to offer them right now, right? So I'm glad we're moving the most vulnerable to a new site that the county's providing, and I'm also glad that the hospital foundation is going to help provide services to this, and we're going to clear the entrance to the emergency room. But really the issue is that we have no business judging or assuming what's going on in those folks' lives. If somebody says they're hungry, you got to treat them like they're hungry. If somebody says they don't have a place to sleep, they don't have a place to sleep. We start from there. So I'm glad we're moving forward, but I know we have a long ways to go. Thank you.
Candace.
Ensign Road is one of the most frustrating sites I visited on my tour of the camps this week. We did an entire segment on Ensign Road, which is already up on my YouTube channel. For me, it's frustrating because many of the campers already have some form of shelter, which seems that solving the problem is relatively easier than solving it for the people that live in the jungle. There's clearly a need that's not being met. At this point, I think the best solution, in addition to the county pursuing a dedicated space, is to allow for privatized urban campsites that would be regulated and a safe option for this population. Given how long it's taken to stand up a public site, I am less than optimistic about the government being able to meet this need anymore. I think one reason this process has taken so long is that the city does not work well with the other jurisdictions. Lacey, Tumwater, and the county are rightfully suspicious about Olympia's response to homeless, and that's causing friction. This mistrust is historical and not limited to this issue. I've seen this dynamic in other areas as well. We are seeing when it comes to the Regional Home Fund and the reluctance of our partners to go down that same path. There seems to be a feeling that Olympia is forcing its values on the other communities. While the population of Ensign Road is mixed, it also has developed a reputation for being a bad neighbor and a safety hazard. The nearby medical providers have been significantly impacted. There's a rat problem at St. Peter's. People are tunneling under the medical buildings either for shelter or to steal. Businesses have had to hire private security. Patient safety is also being compromised. Emergency medical vehicles are being rerouted over to Lily Road. Sidewalks are blocked, forcing pedestrians into the roadway. Some of the campers wander into the road either due to intoxication or being in mental health crisis, and that's a pedestrian hazard. Campers are breaking into water and power lines, which present a fire and electrocution hazard with the potential to affect a blackout in an area that's necessary to our community's welfare. And so I just have to ask Olympia, are you okay with this? Because I'm not. I'm just not okay with this. Thank you.
Question number 3. Many consider homelessness and affordable housing as interrelated challenges. Please describe how you understand the relationship between homelessness and affordable housing, and please name your goals and methods for expanding affordable housing in our region and city.
Candace.
I feel the relationship is not quite as simple as people would like to think. We are indeed in an affordable housing crisis that has been 40 years in the making, and it's going to take bold action to solve this problem. Plainly put, we need a housing boom. This is a problem that requires a relentless sense of urgency, which I'm simply just not seeing with our council. They talk about it, but I'm not seeing them doing anything. Part of learning about housing, the housing bottleneck for me has been meeting with builders and others in the housing trades to hear their perspective. The Olympia Master Builders recently had a forum, and I will note that none of the incumbents were at the forum to meet with the builders who are going to build housing in Olympia. I think that says it all. What I have learned has shocked me. Developers are overwhelmingly choosing to work in Lacey and Tumwater over Olympia because it's easier and less risky for their investments. Tumwater has 4 times the new housing construction as Olympia. In order to get any projects built in Olympia, we basically have to bribe the builders to work with our city. Why is that? As for housing for low-income people, the cost to build here does not make economic sense for developers. They are not social service providers, though they are providing a valuable service to our community. We must find ways to streamline and lessen the cost of permitting and reviews to get more projects in the pipeline now. We also cannot wait for this increased stock to magically appear. We must also find ways to repurpose existing structures so they can provide housing in more efficient ways, which will hopefully impact rents. I would like to see a universal application program that would benefit both renters and landlords. For renters, it could provide a free or low-cost way of getting verified, which would help with application costs, which for some people can be extraordinarily high. It would also help landlords mitigate risk, which would help keep rents low. A service such as this could also facilitate co-housing and the ability of roommates to be better matched. We also need to explore more options like boarding houses, dorm-style housing, SROs, and especially investing in a transitional housing to get a roof over people's heads sooner than later. I will also note the city's tax increases, along with the eviction moratorium, has impacted rent significantly. My rent went up from $900 to $1,500, $600 in 3 years. I'm being evicted in March, so I'm going to be dealing with this problem firsthand.
Thank you, Candace.
I'm not okay with it.
Clark.
Homelessness and affordable housing are certainly interrelated challenges, but I really believe that the issue is a choice that our broader society, that the United States has made to stack the decks against poor people with rents that are too high and wages that are too low. To actually establish to have economists talk about this is an acceptable rate of unemployment, this is an acceptable rate of houselessness, this is an acceptable rate of people on the street. That's cold. That's cold. So that's what we're starting with. Is it's not something we're going to solve or cure here in this community. We're trying to respond both compassionately to the individuals who are impacted, and also to respond to keep the most livable city where we can all enjoy moving around. My strong feeling about our efforts is that we need to focus the city money and the staff efforts really specifically on investments that benefit the many rather than the few, the many who are cost burdened for housing. Examples are trying to stabilize existing apartment complexes, first-time home owner programs. I don't believe that helping foster just more housing in general will do anything to reduce the burden of the cost of housing on folks. In fact, I think it'll have the opposite effect of gentrifying, especially downtown close, and having the service workers who serve downtown have to commute in from farther out. So I hope that we'll continue to seek vision and efficiencies and opportunities within our building department to make it more streamlined for housing, but I don't think we should make investments in trying to help create that housing. Thanks.
The Squaxin Island Tribal Council recently signed a memorandum of understanding with the city of Olympia and the Squaxin tribal flag was raised at this signing and will now be a permanent part of the flag display over City Hall of Olympia. Describe the importance of this MOU and the role that you would like to see regional tribes play in the ongoing stewardship of these lands. Clark?
Thanks. The renewed accord between the Squaxin Nation and the city of Olympia is a great symbolic strengthening of this relationship. And I was really pleased. We were inspired by the Evergreen State College deciding to fly the Squaxin tribal flag, and several of us attended that event. And we did, to the question asked a moment ago, we did work with a flag protocol person to decide which two flags should be stacked and to make sure that the hierarchy is appropriate there, so that the flag etiquette was cared for. And I'm really proud that there's a beautiful engraved simple land recognition plaque that now hangs at the entrance to the council chambers. I think there's two ways that the city benefits from this relationship. One is of course this long view on stewardship of the land and resources, and that's really come through the tribe's advocacy around West Bay and the Deschutes estuary. And then the other one is economic development right now. They've got some casino dough that they have the possibility of investing and starting more businesses. And it's been exciting to begin talks about how the Squaxin people might have a presence in downtown Olympia. So I'm very pleased and proud about the event and about the relationship moving forward.
Candace.
Like many things, on the issue of the Squaxin, the city says one thing and does another. They put the rights of one group over the rights of another group, as well as they have double standards around groups. The city may have said some nice words last week and made a token gesture toward acknowledgement, but I urge voters to look at their actions toward the Squaxin, not their words. It is notable that this is also happening around the election in an effort to gain favor with the voters. The same thing happened during the election in 2019, though at that time the council prioritized the encampment under the 4th Avenue Bridge over the Squaxin tribe. I broke this story in an article I wrote for Medium called Olympia Prioritizes 4th Avenue Bridge Homeless Encampment Over the Community. In a 6-to-1 vote, the council decided to allow the troubled camp to remain over the written objections of the Squaxin tribe. The words of the Squaxin were blunt. The encampment under the bridge is having a significant impact on the tribal community, and it needs to be removed from this location. The tribe complained about theft of salmon, denigration of the shoreline, and environmental pollution, saying, habitat recovery has taken a huge step backwards, and furthermore, there has been damage to the tribe's treaty-protected rights. It is about literally decades of environmental remediation to sensitive areas. To put it succinctly, we cannot imagine a worse location to allow an unauthorized encampment to persist. The work preserving salmon habitat has been pursued with understanding that protecting and restoring the fish runs in Bud Inlet on the Deschutes River was as much about Olympia's community values as it was about the tribe's treaty protected rights to those resources. My opponent, Clark Gilman, voted against the Squaxin. So did Jim Cooper and Lisa Parsley. They had the letter. It was addressed to each of them. It came in time for them to have read it before the meeting and taking their vote. They voted against the tribe. Their actions mattered more to me than words or a flag. So they sold the tribe out, so it's really hard to trust their intentions going forward. Thank you.
Anything else in closing that you would like our audience to know about you and your plans of what you will bring to this position?
Candace.
I want the viewers to know that I will be relentless in working to solve the problems around urban camping, public safety, and affordable housing. I will bring urgency, focus, and leadership to the council, as well as a journalist's curiosity to get at the truth of this matter in any situation. With journalistic values, that also comes an integrity to the truth, even if it makes me personally uncomfortable. There are a lot of things about our current policies that make me uncomfortable, and they should make you uncomfortable too. Olympians are kind and generous, but sometimes that prevents us from seeing the reality of situations that are different from our own. There is nothing ennobling about life in the camps, nothing romantic, nothing progressives should be okay with. I urge viewers to go to my YouTube channel and watch my reporting. You will see both my desire to create a new reality, as well as the heart I'm bringing to bear on these matters. I'm running because I care about these people and because I care about Olympia. We have to start setting better boundaries around behavior. We can't allow open drug use, prostitution, and theft to become normalized. Stealing not only harms the community, it morally injures the person doing the stealing. They know it's wrong. They know they are compromising their values, and the truth is, that can be a hard place to live, knowing that you have harmed others. Crime also pushes the perpetrators away from society. We also tend to forget about the victims of crime. They are being lost in the dialogue right now, and I'm trying to be a voice for those people who have been victimized. I have not forgotten them. I have heard their stories. There's no such thing as, oh, it's just property. That's a callous position, because behind every piece of property is a human with feelings. On November 2nd, I want you to ask yourselves, are you okay with this? On November 2nd, I ask that you vote for courage. On November 2nd, I ask you vote for leadership. This is our home. We need to save it. Thank you.
Clark.
I think the one thing I would say is you can count on me to ask for more for the many. That I'll do that for sure, and I'll work hard to kick the doors open a little wider and hold the City Hall doors open so that we might have more participation, more involvement from historically marginalized communities, from Black, Indigenous, people of color, and working class people, to try to get some seats on those boards and commissions and a voice that's heard in the executive offices at City Hall. It's been my honor to serve on City Council, and I really appreciate the Interfaith Works Forum today. Thank you.
Well, thanks to all of our candidates who are here with us today.
Anyone that watches my videos is, by definition, a good person.